Hello, folks. Just wanted to come on and share some concepts I've been working with. There are these concepts in esoteric wisdom called involution and evolution. And involution is the movement from infinite everythingness, nothingness, down through a process to create finer or more and more a coarsening of the light until you have finite reality, finite creation in which we exist. So this is talked about in the Tree of Life in Kabbalah as the movement from the Sfirot, from Keter down to Malchut, or the four worlds. And essentially what these concepts describe is the process of creation, of how we came to finite reality from infinite consciousness or infinity. So you can think of it as these stages, and you can think of it as we understand of creation, like that the sun is a stage of involution. The sun is itself light, yet it is also matter. So it is a stage between, infinity and finite reality are stars, suns. And then the sun exploded, and a piece of that formed into our planet. And then from our planet came life, and from life came consciousness. And at some stage in that process begins evolution, which is now the movement of finite reality moving back up the ladder towards infinite reality or infinite consciousness. So we as human beings are finite reality, our life on this planet, and we have the capacity to self-realize or self-actualize as infinity, as being light, right? We call it God's light, our true nature as being light. Now, in order to do this process, which is why we do shadow work and healing work, is that you cannot bypass your trauma, right? Or you can, but it's not lasting. And the bypass communities and bypass religions, that's what they're about. They're about accessing your true identity as divine light, as an extension of God. But they want to bypass over your trauma, saying that your trauma doesn't exist. What do you mean your trauma? You don't exist, so your trauma doesn't exist. But you can't fully embody an awakened consciousness without sorting through your material, or another way of putting it, removing the debris, clearing the debris, because it's through clearing the debris of your trauma that you can actually see, that you actually have the capacity to see and be who and what you truly are. Because the trauma is stored in the body, and if you try to embody infinite light, the trauma will stop you because it's stored in there. So that's why it's so essential to metabolize our trauma and clear the debris of our trauma so that we can actually see and be who we truly are. In this book that I'm reading, which I should have brought the quote, but it's upstairs, it says the words of Michel de Salzman, a teacher of the Gurdjieff tradition, says that involution and evolution are these two movements in time and space, and that we are where those two meet. That is who we are. We're the meeting point between those two processes. So what I feel is that we are, as a species, moving to embody a new identity. Right now, we're locked into the identities that we've been creating in our modern world, in our modern cultures. And those identities are based on the armor we need, the armor to live within a wounding world. And the identities are so strong, and they're what our systems are telling us keep us alive and keep us successful within a wounding world. And to many degrees, they're correct. In our wounding world, we do need the ego and the identity to interact with other people and do things in the world to survive. But these identities are so limited, and we are limited from taking the next step in our evolution, the evolution of our species, because of these identities. And so the ego has created all these systems to keep itself alive. And one of those systems in the Gurdjieff work is called buffers. And one of the ways that we see buffers express themselves is through guilt. So if I'm, in some way genuinely walking on the path and trying to do work, and then I, yell at my kids, for example, and then upon reflection, I'm like, oh, how could I do that? I'm so terrible. Who are you to really think that you've done any work in the world when you still yell at your kids and you're still being aggressive and bringing aggression into the world? Now that guilt, what it actually does is only strengthen the self-concept, this identity, and keep me further from opening to true, what in the work is called remorse of conscience. And true remorse of conscience is when when consciousness recognizes what it's done under the guise of an identity, what it's done living within the galut paradigm, the exile paradigm, and how painful and hurtful that truly is. Because what we truly are is this open, loving, infinite energy. And that's what we're here to truly be. And that when we see it from that vantage point, it's very painful to recognize what we've done in our, you could call it, sleep state. And instead of feeling guilt and compiling upon an identity based on that guilt, we actually feel the true pain and the remorse of living from an asleep and conditioned, locked-in identity reality. And that helps us open to our true identity, which is this open-hearted, loving consciousness. So we are moving as a species in that direction, and each one of us who does the work to do our healing work, to peel back the layers, to metabolize the material that keeps us stuck in the past and locked into these identities of this is who I am my pain, I am my trauma, and now I will continue to move from that place and create more trauma and more karma in the world. And the more we sort through that and clear the debris, the more we can see who we truly are. We can come to that place where involution and evolution meet, and we can live from there. So my blessing to you on this Shabbat Eve is that you continue doing the work in your own way, your own healing work, and your own awakening work, the work of moving vertically up to recognize your true nature and bringing that down and grounding that into your body in this world. And that through our own, each individual work, we will bring about this change and transformation in consciousness and evolution. All right, friends, be well.